You will have noticed today that there were more infections in Victoria than New South Wales. Now, the Victorian Premier has been very forthcoming with advice for you over recent months. What advice would you give Daniel Andrews?
Look, I'm not about giving anybody else advice. All I said at the time when I made particular comments about the reality of Delta and how we need to live with it is just what we were experiencing. And New South Wales was the first state to experience that. And I worked very hard through National Cabinet and through other forum just to say to other state leaders, we have to learn to live with Delta. And Delta best responds to vaccination, and that's why I fought so hard to make sure we were able to bring some vaccines forward in New South Wales and target them in those areas of concern. And that's now proved to be a good strategy, and we're not out of the woods, but certainly we're looking forward to life reopening, and it's been a really difficult winter. And I'm just grateful to the people of this state.
Yeah, sorry, Premier. Daniel Andrews seems to have learned that lesson. He early on suggested that he could crush the Delta virus. He now knows that won't happen, and he's pursuing that vaccination strategy as well and then looking to open up. Are you worried and concerned at the other states who still seem to be pursuing a zero COVID strategy? They may never open up the way they're headed.
Well, the reality is, Chris, we can't live in a bubble forever, and that goes for every state, but that also goes for us as a nation. We have to reintegrate with the rest of the world, and we have to accept that nobody, not even the health experts, can tell us how long COVID will be around for. It could be years and years, and we need to prepare ourselves for that. And now that we have vaccine, now that we have the ability to protect our citizens, there's absolutely no reason to open up to each other. I mean, I want to make sure, I would love to be able to travel freely in my own country as opposed to being allowed to go overseas first. And I hope that all state leaders stick to the national plan. It's a good plan. It's a plan which has guided the New South Wales decision making, and it's a plan that I think will stand us in good stead. But the best advice I can give anybody, including our citizens here in New South Wales, is if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated, protect yourself, your loved ones and the community more broadly, because vaccination is the key to living with COVID and living freely. And we've always said in New South Wales our mission is to allow our citizens to live as safely and as freely as possible during COVID, and that's certainly what we're aiming for.
Should all the other states open their borders to New South Wales in December once New South Wales has an 80% vaccination rate, even if they limit people coming across to the border to the fully vaccinated?
Well, the Doherty plan rightly says that every state needs to get to 80% double dose for that to occur, and so we're patient. I'm happy to wait according to what the Doherty plan says, but once every state gets to 80% double dose, and the states are travelling not too far behind each other. I mean, obviously New South Wales had incentive and we had a mission to get our population vaccinated as soon as possible so we could get out of lockdown. But I would say to all the states, please get your citizens vaccinated as quickly as possible. You might think you can control when Delta comes into your state. It may not happen at the time that you think it might. And so the best protection is for all the states to get to 80% double dose, all of us to open up for each other. New South Wales has always been open to everybody. And I'm hoping in a few weeks' time when Premier Andrews experiences, the highs and lows of those case numbers, he and I can have a conversation about opening up to each other ahead of all the other states opening up, and then being able to at least have the two largest states dealing with each other before the other states have their vaccination rates where we are. And these are conversations we should have. These are conversations that are in the best interest of our citizens and our nation. And I'm looking forward to the next few months. They'll be challenging, but also very liberating. And we've done our homework. We thank the people of this great state for really rolling up their sleeves and getting jabbed. I think we should all be proud to see that New South Wales now has some of the highest vaccination rates on the planet in a very short period of time. And I think we can do even more by the time we open up at 70 and 80%. I'm hoping our first dose rates have exceeded 90%. And that's something we can all be proud of.
In the first couple of months of the current outbreak, you had a couple of other premiers attacking you very publicly. Daniel Andrews, Mark McGowan, they said that you had to crack down harder. They demanded you do more to stop the outbreak. You had media, journalists every day at your press conference demanding you lock down, bring in curfews, shut certain stores and the like. Were you pushed into draconian measures that you didn't really want to introduce at the time?
Well, look, it's a very good question that you asked, Chris. And I should say we, the team, had a very good strategy about what we needed to do. And I remember being criticised every single day for saying that vaccination was key to us getting out of this. No doubt you also needed those health measures as well. Reducing mobility is key, and how you do that is obviously how you set your settings. You definitely needed to reduce mobility, keep people within their community and limit people moving around as much as possible, in addition to getting that targeted vaccination strategy. So I knew the strategy we had was sound. But there's no doubt that when you're doing things for the first time and expressing a view that's different, I think the day that I said that we wouldn't be able to quash Delta and we had to learn to live with it, I was pilloried by everybody. But that's a reality.
Well, you weren't pilloried.
Pandemic.
You weren't pilloried on this program, Premier, because this is something we've been arguing.
You're an exception.
With the experts, we've been telling people for a year and a half that we have to find a way to live with the virus, and certainly post-vaccination, that's much more doable.